At this time, I would invite everyone to please stand for the presentation of the colors. Protecting our great country, to fight the valiant fight, to rescue us from danger at home across the sea, brave and special people who keep our nation free. And together on a mission, our heroes, they are there, every color, every creed, with freedom's light to share. And day by day, step by step, all for one and one for all, our heroes stood together strong and answered freedom's call. On behalf of the entire Weeding family, I wish to welcome all of you to our 4th annual Let Freedom Ring Memorial Day Service of Honor. We gather to honor the veteran men and women who served our country and who sacrificed their lives in so many ways for our freedom, for our lives, and for our liberty. My name is Daniel Weeding, and I'm humbled to be here in the presence of so many local heroes. We welcome all of our guests today, the VFW and American Legion posts in attendance, our guest speaker, Lieutenant Colonel Rich Apple, Michelle Glatz, Wendy Jacobs, Chuck Schneider, Tyler Tuttle, and Dan and Carla Brault. I would also like to thank all of the staff members of Weeding Family Funeral Home who have made this tribute possible. Oftentimes, it isn't just the veteran who is called to a life of sacrifice. I also wish to personally thank each and every one of you who have lived your lives in a manner of sacrifice. Whether you personally wore the uniform, or if you personally loved a person in uniform, thank you. Thank you, thank you. We are gathered here this afternoon to remember those who gave of themselves for our freedom, to remember those who gave of themselves for our country, to remember those who gave of themselves for each and every one of us, to remember those who gave so we can remain free. This freedom we so value and cling to and cherish. We gather to honor and pay tribute to those we have loved and lost. We live in a world and a society that oftentimes tries to pretend that nothing is sacred. But in fact, some things are. The grief that a family endures when a loved one dies is surely one of those things. The veterans that you have loved and lost are who we pay tribute to today. And they are the ones who speak volumes to us. They speak to us by their years of service and by the risks that they bore. They speak by their willingness to have put on that uniform in defense and protection of their nation. The resounding message that every veteran speaks, even in death, is that they love their country, their family, their friends, their fellow citizens, their duty, and their honor. They love these things so much that they put themselves in harm's way in order to protect them as the government said they should be protected. That message is one that the survival of our nation and our way of life depend on. We read in Christian scripture, "Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends." It is in that expression of sacrifice and love offered by the veteran and their families that we are able to offer our thanks. Through their sacrifice, we are able to gather here today to honor these men and women through the spoken word, through music, and through ceremony. Again, I thank all of you for gathering, and I especially thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to remember. In the silence of our hearts, let us now pause just for a moment to remember. Lieutenant Colonel Richard L. Apple was born and raised in Iowa and now lives in Chilton, Wisconsin. He had served as Chilton Elementary School principal for 12 years and is currently the middle school principal in Chilton. He is married to his high school sweetheart, Michelle, and has 2 children, Jordan, age 13, and Stephanie, age 9. LTC Rich Apple has served in the United States Army since 1986, when he enlisted in December, and prior to his subsequent selection for officer candidate school. He was commissioned as an infantry second lieutenant in 1988 and retired in 2011 as a lieutenant colonel after 24 years of service. He has deployed and served in both Operation Iraqi Freedom from 2003 until 2004 and Operation Enduring Freedom from 2009 to 2010. LTC Apple's awards include the Bronze Star, the Meritorious Service Medal, Army Commendation Medal, and the Army Achievement Medal. His badges include the Combat Action Badge and Parachutist Badge. I'd like to welcome now Lieutenant Colonel Rich Apple.
After hearing Dan's speech, I should probably plagiarize some of that because it was so well done. He hit on so many things that I feel, and I know so many veterans here feel. Made me remember a couple of things while he was up here talking. And I hit on it in my remarks today, but it's in regards to the family members who are here, or the family members who stay behind when a person gets deployed. And when you're a soldier, you're a Marine, you're a sailor, you're getting ready to go off to combat, there's so many things that you have to do to take care of business, and you look at it as business. Had a will made at the age of 20, had your estate plans all set to go, and on the last tour that I went on, I actually had a meeting with Dan just to make sure, you know what I want, right? He knew. And to think of the families, as we talk about things, going off to war, getting all these things prepared, I think now of my wife and my kids who were back here thinking about all of that. And where it was business for us before you deployed, it's not business for families. And that's just so many families that do that on a daily basis from early on, age 18 on. So You had me thinking of that when you were up here talking. And you were very good in talking to us, and I know how much you care about the veterans and taking care of them as they're laid to rest. With that, I'd like to just start, and I'm so humbled to be here tonight, stand before you and just give you a few of my thoughts on Memorial Day Ceremony 2013. Nearly 30 years ago, I played taps at my hometown cemetery and watched as veterans and their families from so many different decades back in the 80s pay tribute to the fallen veterans and family members before them. I likely stood off to the side with my buddy who was going to be playing the Echoes and kind of waited for our turn to play and watched the ceremony, but didn't really take it all in, nor did I really understand the full meaning at that point as a 17-year-old, 16-year-old kid. Today, I know that you guys get this message, and I, as a principal, every time I talk to kids, I work very hard to make sure that they get that message. That message is we must remember and understand the sacrifice of so many that serve. The bottom line is we're still at war. And soldiers, Marines, airmen, and sailors are dying every day in faraway lands to preserve the freedoms for our country and the Americans that live in it. Not only are there individuals dying for our own freedoms, but the freedoms of human beings all over the world. Someone somewhere right now is fighting for their life. Someone is doing all they can to perform life-saving action to try and save a buddy. I implore you to take a moment away from this typical spoiled lives that we live here in America and take a moment to truly show respect for those who cared more for others and the ideals of this country than themselves. For most Americans, the only sacrifice that they have had to feel since 9/11 has been increased security lines at the airport, the longer waits getting into sporting events while people are searched. Less than 1% of all citizens in our country has ever served in the United States Armed Forces. Today, those that are serving volunteer knowing full well that the chances of them deploying to war is very likely. As I say these words, I know that the veterans in front of me who raised their right hand and took the oath of office will remember where they were and when they made that pledge. It's the oath of service taken by everyone who has ever worn the uniform. You guys, I'm sure, remember when you did this. I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. Many people know what the words loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage mean. But how often do you see someone actually live up to them? I saw it daily while serving with some of the most amazing soldiers from all over parts of this great country. This weekend, there will be lots of people throughout the country paying tribute and respect to those who have served our great country, and to those of our comrades who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. I think of how fortunate we are to live on this earth here and now, and how we are so blessed to live in America. We don't have to worry about IEDs or suicide bombers walking into our safe havens here in northeast Wisconsin. My travels have taken me some of the most dangerous locations around the world. I've seen how others live in constant fear. I ask you to take the time and count our blessings for living here in the safety and luxuries of northeast Wisconsin. Most around this world would die for these kinds of freedoms in this way of life. As Dan said, I served in the United States Army for over 24 years. I, like so many others before and after me, joined the service to serve others. Today, I'd like to recognize everyone who has ever worn the uniform, but also those who have stood by and supported the person wearing the uniform, the families and friends. I was assigned as the Rear Battalion Commander in 2007 and 8 for the 432nd Civil Affairs Battalion. During this year-long deployment, of the battalion, I was responsible for all communication and support from the home front to the families and soldiers abroad in theater. This was the most difficult job I had in my 24 years of service. I saw the pain and anguish of the families who were left at home as they worried and prayed for their soldiers in harm's way. I saw firsthand the strength that the spouses and families carried at home. After 2 deployments, I now know that it's tougher to be here, not knowing if your loved one is in a safe place, than it is to be on mission and actually be in harm's way. While on missions, you're aware of your surroundings. You're very focused as to what's going on. You trust your buddy to your left and to your right. Everybody's got your backside. Back home, families wonder what the loved one's doing at that moment. I wonder what they're doing right now. I wonder if they're safe. They worry when the phone rings to hear that something went wrong. They get tired of always being asked if things are okay when they go to the grocery store, because they know it's not. It's not okay. It won't be okay until their family member comes home. And they dread that knock on the door. The soldiers standing in their Class A uniforms delivering the most horrific news on behalf of a grateful nation. As the rear commander during this time, I had the task of getting updates from Baghdad, where my battalion was at. I knew instantly, within minutes, from the operations officer on duty, they would call me to let me know if we had wounded or a casualty. It was an incredible burden that I carried for that 1 year, knowing that when the call came to me, those family members were somewhere doing something, not knowing at all that their loved one had been wounded. And in one case where I had to go to New Jersey, where Major Dwayne Kelly had served with our battalion, we had to go and receive him home after being killed in an IED suicide bomber attack. Another one I'd like to be able to recognize today and honor is a young man who, when I taught in Iowa, was one of my students. Sergeant Aaron George Sissel. Aaron and the gang from Iowa was assigned to live on the same operating base as my unit in the fall of 2003 in the western Iraqi province of Al Anbar, just outside of Ramadi, close to the Syrian border. I remember driving onto the base and seeing that beloved black and gold Iowa Hawkeye flag flying up on a pole by the maintenance building. So I had my driver pull in to say hello to these friendly folks. First 2 people I ran into was my all-state fullback linebacker, Jeff Curry, and Aaron Sissel. Then the rest of the Iowa boys started coming up out of the building. And I realized, couldn't believe that I had 6 folks from my town where I taught at in Iowa meet up on the battlefield over in the middle of Iraq. It was great reconnecting with the guys during the first few months together. Aaron was one of my students where I taught. He was also my bat boy when he was younger as baseball coach, and he was my football manager as varsity football coach when he was in middle school. On November 29th, 2003, Aaron was killed in action as the convoy he was on came under attack and he was ambushed east of Al-Qaim, Iraq. He was right next to the Syrian border. The driver of his vehicle, Joe Gottschalk, also a former student of mine, was seriously wounded in the attack. And I'd like to share a little bit more of this day. As they left my room, after bringing me some Iraqi dinars from my base back in at Al-Assad, I said, "Hey, you guys, be careful out there. There's still a lot of bad guys." And Aaron said, "You too, Coach." I was in the operations center when I first heard of the ambush shortly after the attack, and immediately had a sick feeling in my stomach. I then heard the names of those involved about an hour later as they were trying to resuscitate and get medevac flights into them. I still have a hard time allowing myself to go back to that day, as I'm sure other veterans do that have situations like this. I do remember immediately thinking of Aaron's family. I knew his mom, his sister was a student of mine, and all the friends in a town that had no idea how their lives would be impacted in a few hours after the news would be brought to their family and to the town. The pain of losing a comrade hits everyone very hard. The pain of losing a friend and former student is heart-wrenching. I know the Keels had to put up with this and deal with this loss of a soldier and a member as well. It changes the community. It changes how you look at the soldiers that come out of your community. The strength of every soldier comes from those who love him and the support they provide. Please remember all of those who have sacrificed. I've had the opportunity to deploy twice in my career, the first time to Iraq and then the second to the Horn of Africa. I've always felt that people serve for many reasons, but the main focus that I've always witnessed is serving and sacrificing for others. Not only their fellow soldier to their left or right, but also the people here in this country and the values that this country stands for. I believe in teamwork, duty, country, honor, and sacrifice. All of these virtues mean something to those who have ever worn the uniform. As I have been afforded the opportunity to speak to different groups about my experience, I've had the good fortune to meet countless veterans from around the area. We share a bond that will never be broken, and I'm proud to call myself a veteran. Ceremonies like this, taking the time to pause and remember, are very important, but it allows us to pay tribute to the men and women of America who have put, or are now putting, duty, country, honor before self. In this day and age, this seems to be more of an exception rather than the rule or norm. This is sacrifice. I'm a different person from what I was 30 years ago when I stood in my hometown cemetery and played taps. I've seen combat. I've lost buddies. I've been in some situations where I was so scared, but you didn't have time to think about it till hours later. I've joined the ranks of these men and women sitting before us now who likely share similar memories or far worse than anything I've ever seen. I know now what I didn't know 30 years ago. I know how precious life is. I know how it feels to talk to somebody and give them a hug, only to hear over the radio 30 minutes later that they've been ambushed and they're gone. I know now why sometimes I get goosebumps when I hear the Star Spangled Banner, or songs like the Battle Hymn of the Republic, or America the Beautiful. They have such more meaning to me now. I know why I am so annoyed to hear the national anthem played, only to have some individuals nearby not taking the time to stop what they're doing, take their hat off, and pay respect. I know now why I can't listen to Eric Clapton's song, Tears in Heaven, without getting choked up, because it was played at every soldier's funeral memorial when I served in Iraq with the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment. In 9 months I was there, I heard it 42 times for every soldier lost during that 9 months. Closing, I'd like to thank and honor my fellow veterans. In war, there is no one that walks away unchanged. Some veterans wear physical scars on the outside. Some internalize and battle the memories that others could never imagine. Everyone is changed in some way. I recently watched the movie Act of Valor. Not sure if anybody else has seen that. My wife and I were watching on a rainy Sunday morning, and at the end of it, a poem is read, and I found myself speechless and had to rewind it. It was written by Native American Shawnee Chief Tecumseh. It goes as this: so live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others in their view, and demand that they respect yours. Love your life. Perfect your life. Beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over to the Great Divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting a passing friend, even a stranger, when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and grovel to no one. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. Abuse no one and no thing, for abuse turns the wise ones to fools and robs the spirits of its vision. When it comes your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home. I hope that I've given something that has stirred a feeling or thought in you to think outside of our own self today. And I hope that what is a veteran remains what we are today, and others understand the sacrifices that so many have made on all of our behalves. This is what I believe is honor and selfless service. I'm honored to be a veteran. I'm honored to be a veteran with all of you folks here today. For the family members, thank you for your family members and their service. I salute you all. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.
Surely we remember tonight all the men and women who have served our armed forces and those who have died serving our country. Weeding Family Funeral Home had the tremendous honor this past year to serve a number of families whose loved ones were veterans. These endured all and gave all, that justice among the nations might prevail, and that mankind might enjoy freedom and inherit peace. To honor them and to honor you, their friends and family members, we proclaim the names of these veterans, as well as other veterans who have left this world a better place because of their service. Mylan Gash, Donald Lemke, William Bush, Ronald Reddick, Norbert Ludwig, Norman Bruckner, Wilmer Lose, Gerhard Kreppling, Wallace Krieger, Specialist Kyle Haymauer, Robert Wright, Robert Blatz, Paul Kurlanis, Harold Ben Heron, Claude Gebhardt, Elmer Wardillo, Norbert Euclid, Dan Wester, Jerome Meyer, Argo Rapier, Sergeant Amy Kruger, Harley DeTroy, Jerome Down, Dale Muntz, Clarence Haymauer, William Gazer, John Friedel, Robert Graney, Thomas Beagle, Ronald Svedlik, Sylvester Zeringer, Richard Volk. God bless these veterans, God bless their families, and God bless the United States of America. Our service will now continue outside as the American Legion Post number 124 leads us out with the colors, and Tyler Tuttle plays Amazing Grace.
Aim! Fire! 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 Set! Arm! Order! Arm! Ready?
And as we release these doves today, and they fly off, let it be a reminder to all of us of those veterans who have gone, served, and helped us with that, to achieve that peace and that freedom.